easy enough to ask the insurance company what insurance costs might be, and then we can bring it back to you. Thank you.
Okay. So a simple matrix, or relatively simple matrix of the options. I think these are the bookends again. Purchase, the upfront amount is the full balance of the capital investment. The PPA, SunPower has provided a number of different PPA options, a lot, and truly, done a lot of work in giving us options. We've selected this particular power purchase agreement option as the most optimal, but if you went down the power purchase agreement road, you could certainly optimize and try and pick the most ideal structure. This was the one we selected just for the points of comparison for the discussion today. Over time, you'll make more payments under the PPA than you will under the purchase. Simply buying the facility, and under the PPA structure, you're essentially financing it. You're deriving the benefits by paying for it over time. The savings for the purchase are also, the highest. They're the highest, not accounting for the cost of the money that you put in up front, and not accounting for the cost or the fact that maybe your present value dollars are worth a little bit more than your future value dollars. So gross value, you're getting the highest savings from the purchase, and again, tax exempt lease, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but it again falls sort of in the middle of the bookends. On a net present value basis, happy to talk through this, but this is simply the concept that under the PPA you're paying for it over time. Under the capital purchase, you're paying for it out of cash up front, and so those dollars, because they're upfront money that has future value if it grows as it's invested, would be worth more. As you discount those values, you get to savings that are much more comparable under the PPA structure versus the purchase structure. And then here are the simple payback numbers. The payback for this, the purchase is about 9 years. The payback for the lease is about 7 years, and the PPA is essentially pays for itself from day one, because you sign the agreement and your energy cost is lower. So, if there are no further questions, the next couple pages are just details of these cash flows. For the purchase, again, I think we've gone through this. These are the kilowatt hours of solar production. That translates into gross savings because you're avoiding this saved utility rate. You're no longer buying that energy at that price, and so those are the gross savings. What the system costs you is the upfront money. You further spend the Prop 39 funds, and you generate cumulative savings here that say that basically right at year 9, your cash flow, you've paid back the facility. So you start negative and you get positive. Our other bookend, setting aside for now the $600,000, you essentially are cash flow positive from day one. Accounting, when your savings accrue right away, you're making a system payment that's less than your savings, and the only permutation here is the $600,000 up front that you're giving to SunPower. There are versions of the PPA that don't involve that, but that's the most optimal one so far. Any questions?
Are you going to explain the tax-exempt lease?
Yes. Well, let's do that now. Tax-exempt lease, again, SunPower gave you a number of options, 11.5 years, 16 years. The concept here, again, is that, as Tim said, it's a structure that allows you to get the benefits, some of the tax benefits that are associated with solar. It's essentially a financing vehicle where you are borrowing at an interest rate. You're financing over a period of 11 years, essentially a loan. You also are having to pay the operations costs, so it's similar to the ownership in that regard. You're paying essentially financing costs and the ownership costs, the O&M costs, and you're getting the same benefits. So it just, so in this structure, it happens that, you know, you are making the payments, the system payments, you know, we don't have the O&M reflected, so the only system payment here is the financing payment at this assumed interest rate of 3.25%. And at the end of the lease term, the district will gain ownership of the facility. They'll buy the facility for a nominal cost, and essentially, at that point, you no longer have any other payments other than O&M, and you're getting all of the accrued savings that are associated with it. So you can see that the savings start to really build up after the financing is paid off.
So this is called a, first of all, who is providing the financing? SunPower or a third party?
It would be a third party, unless you guys are third party and through a municipal COP structure that the third party would be lending to essentially this financing construct.
Okay, so you've got effectively there's like a bank, there's some kind of financial institution which is making a loan to the district, and because you've got some kind of independent third party through some public, I guess we are the public entity through which it's structured, it's tax, the interest that we pay to the financing, the financial institution is tax exempt to them, which is theoretically why we get a lower interest rate, because it's tax exempt to them. So is 3.25%, I mean, is that really the best we're going to do in this market for a tax exempt rate of interest? That's a pretty good return for any kind of financial institution on tax exempt money.
Yeah, I think that this is probably a conservative number, but I don't know.
I would agree, it's a conservative number, but it can vary depending upon when you go to the market for the money, so.
Well, as of today, what, you know?
Probably slightly lower than that.
Okay. And if our term were longer, right, you said you selected 11.5 years. I'm not exactly sure why you selected 11.5. If the term were 16, you said is one of the other options, would the interest rate be potentially lower?
It would be higher.
Higher. Really?
Yeah.
Did you have a larger bill?
And essentially, fundamentally, this comes down to, or the rate is largely determined based on the investor's view of you as a credit, of the district as a credit, and so
We have a AAA bond.
Yeah. So the fact that you get paid out over a longer period of time is simply an added credit to the risk to them because they're waiting longer to get their money back. So the rate will be higher.
Okay. But at the end of this, even though we're calling this a lease, right, I mean, we're effectively financing the purchase.
Yes.
Of this, and we make, right, so we do, like the purchase option, we have ownership of the equipment itself. When we finish paying off this lease.
Yes, and an O&M obligation in the interim. So I think it's truly like halfway, more or less halfway between the
An O&M obligation beginning.
Throughout.
Oh,
From the
throughout.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's first I understood that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that bottom number, 6.3 million, we take 500,000 off of that for O&M?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. No, I'm trying to compare apples to
No,
apples.
it's a good question.
Emily?
I think a lot of this is going over my head. But, so after 11.5 years, we would most likely buy the facility, right?
It essentially becomes yours.
Okay, so,
So you know, essentially,
yeah,
it's hard.
from then on, compared to if we had just bought it originally, the savings would be the same.
Same.
So, if we subtract how much we would most likely pay for it after 11.5 years from the savings that we would make from this lease, how does that compare to the savings we would make over the, what, 8 years it was if we had just bought it? Because shouldn't we be subtracting the cost of what we pay for this after 11.5 years from it? From the original savings? I'm sorry, I'm probably not making much sense, but.
I think you're on to something I'm just not quite following. I think you're right, though.
After-
After 11 and a half years, it's the same thing as owning it. The critical question is, does the district want to forego the existing $3-ish million that are in the bank? This is a way to accomplish the same, year 12 and after, and you don't have, and the district keeps the $3 million. That's the main difference. You trade this payment stream here for this. You can either pay this or this.
Right. Okay. And is there a different amount by how much? By,
So this total is 4.2, and this is 3.4, so about $800,000.
So, is there, I didn't see a recommendation from staff on funding. Is there, on one of the funding choices?
In my opinion, if I were to make a recommendation. And I know that this is something different than we've done. I mean, this is, I see us as growing in enrollment, and I see that approximately $364,000 paying for 3 teachers each year. I mean, that's what I see that savings as. I see that interest rates aren't great. I see the value in, I see the value in all of them. The lease makes me want, I mean, it's so close in costs, but we're gonna save money in 11 and a half years. When do we, I see us as needing that money. If I look at my enrollment projections, we need working capital now. Well, I mean, the idea of, and who knows what's gonna happen with Prop 39, maybe that will get us back more money than not. But I think for the the 2.7 million, that would probably be my recommendation. I think that when we originally went into this and originally we're exploring, it was like, let's just do a PPA, use our bond money, and we're flat. I mean, there's no, we have some savings and we will get some savings from it, and we've done something good, and we've done what we wanted to do with the bond. But call me crazy, but I think that I look at it from a different point of view of what do we need now?
So you're recommending take it out of the reserves or the?
Well, no, I would recommend that we use bond money and the Prop 39 and take the balance out of the reserve.
So you're recommending outright purchase today?
I am recommending outright purchase today. But it's not, I also see the value of the 11.5% lease.
11 and a half years, not 11 and a
But
half.
yes.
That's fine.
Lori, while you're up there, the Prop 39 is in red on all those detailed charts. The $120,000 a year, that's an estimate? Do you have anything better than a gut feel about that $120,000? Does it look like that's pretty?
Well, I think what we did is we came up with that estimate there. I think there's promises from the state, but I feel very uncomfortable saying that the state is going to give us money when I don't know what they're going to do next year. I think that I feel very good about getting money 13-14. We got 131,000 for the planning. I feel very good about this year and 14-15, but I can't speak to the state. I can only estimate that. I can't give a promise on that.
So I do have a clarification question. So the funding, do we have to make a funding decision this evening? Or
No.
that's the one, okay.
No, we can
Because
discuss
on the
that
next
when we-
steps, it says selecting a funding choice. That's why I was like,
Right. I think that what we'd like to, if we could narrow it down, what were we discussing? We were talking about trying to narrow it down because to come back with a contract for each of them, I
Yes,
just.
Each option takes a great deal of effort to read through contracts, take it to legal, and to make sure that we've done everything right. If we leave here with 3 options to come back next month, that means we have 3 times as much work, which potentially means 3 times as much potential for error. So if we can get a decision from the board either tonight or soon about what is the preferred purchasing method, then we can focus on that particular object. That's why there's a recommendation. Choose the financing method.
Right, and I think in order to get the project started, we don't need a decision on the financing portion tonight. It would be nice to have some direction for contracts to look at if we were gonna say, you know, we don't wanna do the PPA, let's go lease for cash.
Yeah, so we could give you 2 as opposed to 1, rather than, it would cut a third of your,
Is that, I mean, is that, are you,
I think the primary issue is that the documentation is vastly different. So to the extent that you want to get started on the actual development of the project, you're facilitated by picking. There's no need to.
I'd just like to put in say that if I were to vote now, I'd like to see SunPower do it. Because of their educational history, because of their solar schools program with CSBA, and because of their flexibility and how they want to do it, not to mention the greater efficiency of their panels, the 25-year guarantee. If I'm going to put money down and want it to be there for 25 years, I want to know that if in year 24 I have a problem, I'm not going to have a fight. And so I just think that they have a real track record of working with educational institutions, and I'm quite impressed with the variety of funding options they presented to us. So impressed that I would be hard pressed to try to decide the funding option tonight, because I think it requires some refinement. I don't think we're going to get that refinement until we really settle on a vendor and then really bear down on working out the details.
Any other comments?
I just, a couple of questions. Is it fair to presume that after 25 years, these things are going to be kind of a dinosaur out there, that the solar panels that will be available 25 years from now will be much more efficient and much cheaper?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Emily's question. You're buying the solar system to provide an economic return, and there's nothing that's going to change that economic return. So there's not going, efficiencies are getting slightly better incrementally, but there's not going to be a disruptive technology out there that's going to make it so that you're going to want to take those out, because the financial return is going to be there, and it's very predictable, and it's shown to be very predictable and reliable.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was going to make comments very similar to Bob's. The SunPower, I am very positive about. A lot of it's the education element. I also think is really good. Their background, they're solid for me. But as far as the funding choice, this is just too quick. I think we need a lot of time, more time to digest it and get some more information about it at this point.
Cindy, would it also not be possible if we settle on a vendor for some of these less quantified questions that have risen up in the course of our meeting tonight, in terms of maintenance, in terms of some of the costs that weren't quantified, the 500,000 estimate that's in that number? I would expect that part of what we would do in this next step would be to really drill down on those and run some spreadsheets that would help us figure that out and answer some of these questions that have risen up with the information we've been given.
Okay. So, do we feel like? Do you need to know the vendor this evening? I'm still not totally sure, because at the end
The first item on the recommendation or next steps is to authorize the negotiation with the vendor.
Okay.
Well, then I'd like to move that we authorize negotiations to begin with Sunpower.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So,
And then in our next meeting, we could get a little bit more information on funding, or we could talk further about that too. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Emily and Alan, you guys have any
Oh.
comments on that, or you got it?
I know.
Oh.
Sorry.
You guys are doing most of the work.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for, selecting us to move forward with contract negotiations. We're honored, and truly excited about working with the district. The only other consideration has to do with the schedule, I would say. We're looking to try to build this project this summer, and that's not a long ways away. And we've got issues here with the ground, as you know, and the foundation work that needs to go in there, ordering steel, working with the California Geological Services and DSA. So it would be best if we had some kind of agreement in place in the next few weeks. Now, does that mean we have to decide tonight? No, but I would say it does mean, discussing it and coming to some decision before the next board meeting, so that I think that's what I would recommend, so that we can move forward, by early March in terms of trying to get this in the ground by early June and completed by August, which is an aggressive schedule. I guess Tony can speak to it even better than I, but it is a tight schedule. That's the only thing I would add.
Oh, I think what I'm hearing though is that the board is not comfortable with giving direction on a financing at this point, and maybe to work with our superintendent and come up with whether we need to do a special meeting or do something different. And so I'll talk to her about that next step. But hearing that, I understand, believe me, we understand construction. We've been through a lot of construction.
All right, thank you so much.
Oh, 1 second. I totally realized that I had not asked for public comment. So if there's any public comment on this particular item, please come forward now. Thank you. I do apologize.
it's my fault.
I was too into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
But I'm going to go back to Lori. So I'll talk to Lori about next steps. Okay. I'll get back to my agenda then. Sorry about that. Oh, and next is the approval of Citizens Fiscal Oversight Committee final report.
We are here tonight.
Lori,
You really got, yeah. Thank you.
We're here tonight to present the final report for the Citizens 2001 Fiscal Oversight Committee. I do notice on the page that it says February 10th, 2014, and I do mean 15 that we are at. It has been a long road for us to get here, but we're very excited to be here. I have one of the members of our Citizens Fiscal Oversight Committee, Alan Furdham, is here. I know Bill Levinson was here earlier, but I don't see him now. And I thank them immensely for the work that they have done over the past several years. This document is one in which we tried to give all the information that we had and list of the work that was done and the work that, and the financing that was done, I think, which is somewhat of a highlight, is the fact that we were able to save the taxpayers over $11 million over the life of these bonds. And I think I'm happy to be at this place. And I thank Ellen as a representative of the committee. The document was put together. There was a committee that met, and we worked with the draft and met one morning and spent a couple hours of which Ellen was there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to step in and just say thank you to the committee. There's only one representative here, but this committee's been 14 years doing this. This is I don't know many committees that do 14 years worth of oversight on construction. So first meeting, I looked September 5th, 2001. So this is the final meeting. Here we are.
Made it.
So does anybody have any questions on this final report?
I just have a comment. The list is very impressive. It's not up here, but we were sent a list of what has happened at each site, and it's an extensive list. And I think it would be really nice to thank the taxpayers and show them what has happened with all the money that they've given us since 2001, along with some pictures, because they're worth 1,000 words. And, you know, I just think that would be a really nice gesture, and it's so impressive that I think we should do that.
Well, we'll post this on the website.
That'd be
We'll get
great.
this on the website. We need.
That'd be great. So is there any public comment on the Bond Oversight Committee final report?
I'm Ellen Purdom, and I'm the member representative of the Bond Oversight Committee. I actually was recruited by Superintendent Ferguson to be on the committee for the 06 bond. So I still sit on the 06 Oversight Committee that still has a few more years to go, hopefully not 14. So I was fortunate enough to represent the Drake High School community, and there was a representative from each campus and all walks of our community, from senior citizens to tax gadflies, and it's been a wonderful journey. And to walk around these campuses and see the modernization that's gone on is truly remarkable. And tonight, listening to the solar panels come to fruition is remarkable as well. I wish Mr. Bluestone was here too, because since I represented Drake, I feel like I might have dropped the ball on the Drake High getting the solar system. But anyway, I want to thank you all. I want to thank Lori Parrish and my fellow committee members, and I was very happy to be here tonight to represent everybody. Thank you.
We should thank you.
You know, the one comment on Drake, and Tony's not here, is each site was analyzed as for, and Redwood is the spot.
Yeah, that was how many years ago? We got a huge report done on every campus and the feasibility as well as the cost, and it was well looked into, thorough. So
Cindy, can we share that with Mr. Bluestone?
Yes, I have a note to myself to have that.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
Oh, I was just wondering, so after the report, is there any possibility of putting solar at TAM? Because I was told that TAM's not really that great of a place.
No, again, it was a few years back. We had a consultant come in and do a very thorough analysis of every campus, and TAM was the least.
Yeah.
That it was just for the cost, it never would pay off in any form whatsoever. And Drake, the expenses were astronomical. That there is a report for that. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the Citizens Fiscal 2001 Bond Oversight Committee final report.
Well, Cindy, since
I was going to say Bob's been on this committee.
since I've been around on 14 years on this too, with great pleasure, I'd like to move that we accept the report.
We have a second? All in favor? Opposed? And that's very loud. Turn that page. Okay, the next thing, approval request for funds to coordinator for the Ross Valley Healthy Community Collaborative. And I'm going to start by saying thank you very much for your patience and for coming to the second meeting. And if you just come up in case there's some comments. We had a very thorough presentation 3-4 weeks ago on this item. I'm sure you'll all remember. And we requested to have time to think about and digest and have time to ask questions about this proposal. And so I'm going to start with, are there any public comments about the proposal?
Could I just introduce who's here just for sake?
Yes, please do.
They came.
Yes.
We have all members here of the collaborative in Ross Valley and representative both of the co-chairs and then several key members of the Drake community. Renee Goddard, who is on the Fairfax Town Council, also a member of the Drake community, has a son at Drake. Dina Leach, who has a daughter at Drake and is one of the co-founders of the new Drake Parent Crew, which is a parent club that just started at Drake, along with Aggie Favalaro, who is with Dina, has started the Drake Parent Crew. Aggie's also the parent club president at Whitehill, where I am at, so she's in charge of both parent clubs. And Lisa Graham, who's a member of our collaborative group and also a board member of the Drake Fund. And then, of course, your very own Liz Seabury, who's been helping lead the charge both at Drake and throughout our community.
And you might want to give an update since the last time you were here, because I think you guys have been around
Sure.
and have some new information and new.
Yeah, well, I'm just pleased to let you know, without putting any undue pressure on you, that all 3 other groups that we visited have unanimously supported our proposals for funding. And we're very pleased to say that the town of Fairfax, the town of San Anselmo, and the Ross Valley School District Board have all approved the funding so that we, with approval tonight, if it happens, we can proceed with advertising and then hiring a coordinator to help with this important work.
I'm going to bring it back up to the board. Is there any comments, questions?
Yeah, I'm very supportive of it. I would just urge, and it's not really, that one of the things that the coalition takes on very actively in its 18-month funding cycle is some really in-depth conversations with the similar groups that exist in the other communities around here. Because I think that, and I said this the last time, we are very much risk splintering our efforts. Because our kids move from one school, we have open enrollment, they move from one area to another. A student who's in the Whitehill catchment can end up at Redwood or can end up at Tamalais. We have that obligation to all those kids. And there are similar efforts afoot in the Twin Cities, there's similar efforts afoot in other areas of our county. And I really think that I don't want to be misunderstood what I said the last time. There's definitely that need for the neighborhood on the ground approach, but for the conversation to affect a larger change, it has to be lifted beyond that. And we don't have, for example, the equivalent of a county superintendent of education, which we do have in the education community, who can unify or unify the various districts. There's no mechanism or structure for that. But I would hope that the conversations that what goes on with this coalition really that you reach out, because I'm not certain that, we don't have any skin in the game with the others the same way. So that would just be a personal request toward effectiveness, I think.
Michael?
Yeah, I have 2 comments. One is just on the consulting agreement. You have a finite amount of funds, but the consulting agreement, the way it's structured, simply says that you're going to pay whoever you hire by the hour, but there's no provision for ensuring that the individual doesn't exceed the amount of funds that you have. So I would generally include some kind of provision that requires, that the individual, gets your authority, or there's some kind of limit with respect to how many hours per month or whatever, so that you don't find yourself in a situation where he or she has worked in excess of what your available resources are. So I would add that, I would include that as part of a statement of work or some kind of modification of the consulting agreement to include that. So the second thing is, I think that, I don't see anything in here specifically that talks about sort of return on investment, you know, ROI. I think it's kind of hard maybe to judge, but I think it's reasonable for, you know, the financial stakeholders, we're not just financial stakeholders, but we're sort of community stakeholders, to expect, you know, as you make progress here, that we get some kind of assessment from you with respect to, you know, how have your goals been accomplished? Has it been a wise use of funds? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that you're going to come back and ask, either from us or from other people 18 months from now, before them for more money. So the question that whoever is sitting here at the time, the logical question they're going to ask is, well, what have you accomplished? What's been the return on investment? How have you measured it? And I would want to know those. I mean, in my mind, when I do these kinds of projects, you kind of set you incorporate that at the very beginning, right? With respect to the person you hire. How are we going to set goals, right? How are we going to measure whether we've achieved those goals or not? So I know that's going to, you're going to come back for more, and we're going to get those questions. So best to think about them now.
Great advice, and we are, and we intend with the coordinator, if we can fund it, that will be one of our first orders of business. Part of the challenge has been that we have all these volunteers that are working to try to put it together outside of the other part of their day. But that's certainly reasonable to expect.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment. I think this is a terrific use of $10,000. It's fortunate that you're coming right after the solar panel. And, you know, this is a drop in the bucket. And I think this kind of preventative work will just, you know, it's just such a wise investment in our dollars. And we've heard from a lot of community members who are not here. I said this last time too, but I just want them to be represented. And we know how important it is in the Ross Valley community. And we hear that, and I think we do need to evaluate it as we go, and we will expect, you know, to see how it's doing. But I think we absolutely need to give you the seed money, especially since you've gotten it from the 3 other sources already.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, well, I actually just wanted to comment specifically to Bob. And if you look, we've come up with the Ross Valley Healthy Communities Collaborative webpage. And down on the right-hand lower corner is a place that says Coalition Connection. And in that, we are, like, from the get-go, finding a way so that we are not, you know, duplicating efforts and using resources that we don't have, and, you know, really gathering the resources that we do, because there has been an immense outpouring of enthusiasm and support. I'm really dying to ask you guys what you think of this whole collaborative, but maybe we could do that offline. But I just want to, you know, guarantee you really, because I think we all know what it's like to waste resources and to duplicate efforts that don't, you know, need to be duplicated.
Yeah, I would just like to chime in and say that I'm enthusiastically supportive of this project. I think it is still, when you consider the challenges, you know, many of our young people are facing in this community, it feels like a tsunami in some ways. And, you know, this is still a small effort to address a problem that I think is extraordinarily huge. And, you know, we should never, ever, you know, lose our focus on this. So thank you for all the work that you've done to get this together.
Yeah, thank you so very much. And I also wanted to just let you know that I forgot what I was going to tell you. Measurement. So that would be one of my primary commitments, is that we start to look at how we are going to gauge where we've started and where we hope to get. So that is something that I think is first port of call for a coordinator to start looking at really where we are, not just the California Healthy Kids Survey, but what we're dealing with in our immediate communities, what our law enforcement is seeing, where our numbers are, and then looking at how we survey people as we go along, the number of people that come to the support groups, attend the community ed and parent ed evenings, and start to measure. And Fairfax asks for the same thing, that we make sure that we come back with a measurement, before the funding is ongoing. So, completely hear you.
And as the chair, I will be last in comments. I do support that we will be the sponsoring agency, first of all. And the amount of money for seed money for the next year and a half, I'm very supportive. Just so that you know, Laura's on the coalition in Larkspur, I'm on it in Mill Valley. So this is very close to both of us. But at the same time, I'm going to challenge you to go out and look for money elsewhere. Because right now, we'll be looking to expand wellness centers on each of the campuses. We're right now starting with the Redwood as a pilot, but we have all intentions of the other two campuses, and that money will really be going, we'll be looking for every dime to go into those wellness centers, which are directly on our kids. And the other fact is, with all these other coalitions, once they know that we financed you, they're on grants, but that grant's only a very short term. So I'm sure they would turn to us also. I think that's going to get to be a little bit difficult to manage. So I'm just going to throw out to you, in a year and a half, this may not be as easy a conversation as you're seeing right now. So I think looking for different funding sources may be something put on high priority. As for right now, if there's no other comments, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the request to fund a program coordinator for the Ross Valley Healthy Community Collaborative for the next 18 months to the tune of $10,000.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? You guys can vote. Aye. Opposed? It passes.
Cindy, do we need a separate measure to act as the fiduciary? It would seem to me that would probably be appropriate, since it is incumbent.
Let's go ahead, just to be on the safe side, so I need a motion that we would act as it's called sponsoring agency towards this coalition. Are there any questions about that? Because we discussed it a month ago pretty much. So could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much again for coming back. Really do appreciate it. Okay, so now the next is the walk for Tamalais High School and alternative sites.
Sure. Sounds great. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you guys. Good evening. I want to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing on our WASP report right now. And kind of start out, basically kind of looking at areas of continuous improvement and what the team from 2007 identified as key strengths, key areas of growth, what steps at each site take that we've been doing to grow in this area, what our critical learner needs are, and our action plans, how we've engaged stakeholders in the process, and what's left to do. One of the quick things, some of the strengths from our 2006-2007 report. Basically, the visiting committee agreed that our teachers at TAM had established clear learning outcomes with comprehensive assessments for all of our students. That TAM has a very rigorous courses, very challenging courses. Teachers employ a large number of instructional strategies and to support our students, that we have numerous programs in place to address both the academic and social emotional needs of our students, that our students are supported by a caring and strong staff, that the school is safe and secure learning environment. The recommendations from 2006-2007, again, I'm going to think there's some similar themes here. Reduce the achievement gap, increase collaboration and expand professional development to specifically address how to close the student achievement gap. Increase opportunities for students to connect academic content to real-world situations and scenarios. Increase equity of opportunity and access to all programs and classes among our sectors. To that end, some of the steps that the site has taken since 2006 and 2007 to reduce the achievement gap. Again, working strongly on our guaranteed and viable curriculum with learning outcomes, our professional learning communities, and our intervention plans that we have developed. Establishing flexible tutorials so students can come and speak with teachers they need for, again, optional studying, reteaching, and again, more time for working on their coursework. Placement of all students this year in grade level math courses. Independent study course options for students who are credit deficient, and putting our English language learners in mainstream courses. In order to increase the collaboration of staff through staff development opportunities to student learning, trying to develop our master schedule to provide opportunities for teachers to collaborate with their prep periods. Having our teacher leader meetings, focusing on teaching and learning, and having this release period so that we can speak with our teachers has been incredible. Teachers use a lot of our modeling opportunities to work on our protocols, how to look at student data, how to talk about curriculum, how to talk about learning strategies with one another. We have weekly staff meetings. Every Monday we are focused on PLC work. We work PLC, our departments come together to look at data and to talk about curriculum and instructional strategies and how to support our students. Teachers have, for the last 5 years, worked on their program goals, proficiency scales, and aligning their learning progressions for their courses. We have provided a number of release days for departments, teacher teams, individual teachers to focus on alignment of work with their course materials. For goal 3, to increase, again, connections of academic content to real-world settings. This list can go on and on and on. Just a quick snapshot. Teachers are working in ITTC, our Instructional Technology Teacher Collaborative, in order to make learning more relevant for students, integrating technology into the curriculum. We have an incredible school to career liaison, Mr. Greg Davidson, who sets up internships for our students. We have just journalism. Our journalism program is so student-run and student-led, creating print magazines. We have our conservatory theater ensemble, in which students get a wide array of exposure to theater production. We have AIM, where students are developing documentary film with latest technologies. The list goes on and on. Our strategic peer mentoring program that we started this year, Abby Levine works with upperclassmen to tutor approximately 20 students right now that are having either academic or social difficulty and trying to give real-world skills to how to collaborate with peers. Our core program, which tries to address relationship building, expose students to real-world problems, working with Tamalais Foundation for experiential learning activities to address English and social studies as well. Goal 4, to increase equity and access. We've done a lot of work right now reviewing potential barriers to higher level courses. And not only reviewing those barriers, but really kind of delving into if the barriers are removed, what academic supports are necessary to support students in higher level courses. Really having a great opportunity to look at partnering with community liaisons, working right now with the Boys and Girls Club of America, Marin County Probation, 10,000 Degrees, College of on and on again, to try and address some of our biggest needs and biggest gaps for our students. Collaboration among teachers to support differentiated learning instruction for all. Again, going back to the PLC process where teachers can really talk and get into best instructional strategies. Our critical learner needs that we've identified for our report, for our WASP report, very similar to 2006, 2007 report. Again, continue to provide students opportunity to access grade level instruction, core competencies and higher course offerings, and be sure that they're ready for college and career in the 21st century. Reducing the gap in performance between our economically disadvantaged students, students of color, and the general population, and increase student achievement in mathematics. To this end, how have we started to get input for our report? We have had numerous meetings with our teacher leaders. I know everybody's going to be really happy come April 24th. Meetings with staff. We've had staff meetings to talk about looking at data, getting input. A draft of our self-study presented to Site Council. We get to meet tomorrow, my Site Council gang, and kind of go through chapters 1 through 3. Parent input meetings. We've had our PTSA fireside chat. our TAMPI Foundation meeting, TAM Talk out in Bolinas, and a parent input night specifically for WASP gathering information. And we've had some student input meetings. I have a student advisory council, and so I've had the opportunity to meet with my student advisory council, ask a bunch of questions, and student feedback forms that were elicited through our gathering of student data. What's next? We are really looking forward again to completing this report. 2015, our action plans that we're doing right now, we're working on chapter 5. We're completing the focus of learning of our self-study. Again, working with our site council for review and input. We're developing our relationship with our WASP chair to seek feedback for the process. Had our initial outreach. We're starting to plan the visit, who's on what committee. Again, looking forward to celebrate and debrief the WASP visit as soon as we're done and start working on implementing the action plan moving forward. That's it. Really excited to finish up WASP. Yay!
Are you really excited that?
I am so excited to finish up WASP.
Oh my gosh. So are there questions on the board?
I have a comment. I had this comment for Drake and Redwood when they came, I think, 2 meetings ago. Has this been a beneficial process? I keep hearing about the party on April 24th, but I'm hoping that as we embark on a superintendent search and we know that what we're doing at all of our sites is so important, I'm hoping that this WASC, I think the WASC process dovetails nicely with what we're going through as a district as we think about who we are and what we want to be. And so I'm just hoping that the WASC process, for those who are really in it, is beneficial to you as the leader of your school and all of your staff.
I believe so, and I think the most important part for me, and then hopefully the staff moving forward, is kind of our chapter 5. What is our action plan to move forward, and how are we really doing our laser focus into the areas of greatest need, and how can we start tackling those issues? So while it is a somewhat cumbersome process, it is interesting to look at all the data. We've had some really great conversations, some challenging conversations too. There's a lot of pushing back and forth on certain ideas, so I appreciate that.
Any other comments? Are there any comments from the public? Robbie?
Hi there, Robbie Pelton. So I noticed for the student input, you had a student advisory council, and a problem that is often with, when I say when youth like myself are integrated into programs or different programming, we get sort of segregated into our own boards, advisory bodies, that kind of apart from where the money is, where the decisions are being made. And one thing, when you have any sort of body, whether that be students, you need to have your lawyer, you need to have your professional, you need to have a variety of stakeholders to give that whole perspective. So one question I have is do you have students on your site council? And are there other venues where students can kind of be put up where the decisions are being made? Thank you.
Yeah, we have students.
Hi, it's me again, Leslie Lundgren, and I just wanted to step up quickly because I think this is one of those examples I was alluding to when we first started. I think this is one of those areas that would really be helpful to have more discussion. That was very fast, so I'm not sure I got the words right, and we'll probably talk more tomorrow at the meeting. But here's just a few things I think would be helpful to flesh out. So we have a goal of increasing or improving mathematic achievement, lowering the gap between the lower socioeconomic groups, and I think there was another group too, but I just don't recall. But basically, decreasing the gap, increasing access and opportunity. But then on what you had as an action was that everyone was placed in grade level math, and I would be interested in how successful that is, but how all those pieces fit together. And I think you and I have had a few discussions about that, and I think that's something that a lot of people have questions about, and it'd be worth really fleshing it out clearly before, I don't know before what, but before there's more, miscommunication that people often cite. Thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments? Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi, Linda Silva from Your Beach. And I, in terms of WASC accreditation, I teach. I'm a tenured professor at California College of the Arts, which is one of the colleges that the district feeds into, and I actually have TAM high school students in my classes, and they're good, they perform well, by the way. And I've been we're a WASC accredited school, and I've been through some of those WASC accreditations, and I would just second what was said earlier, that some of the things that were on the list were actions that were taken, but in terms of how those actions have resulted in a particular outcome, I think it would be good to have examples, whether it's people speaking or visual examples, where the rubber actually hit the road and resulted in a particular outcome, which was the goal of why those actions were put into place. So some of the things that we do, we're a design school, so it's visual, but we have, an example of a poor performing student project and a good performing one, or something that was before or after that action was put into place. And we keep archives. We've got something called Vault, where we actually, on a steady basis, keep archives so that when WASC comes along, we're right there with some examples. So, and I think actually the community of parents and some of the concerns that have come up would benefit from those specific examples rather than actions that have been put in place.
Are there any other comments, questions from the board? Tamascal. I guess you're both San Andreas and Tamascal.
Tamascal and San Andreas, that's correct. So, if Julie was brief, I might be briefer because it's later in the evening and we've got 2 reports to go through. So I'm going to highlight similar process that you heard from Julie, from David, from Liz in previous weeks. But I'm going to highlight the strengths from the 2017, key areas of growth, steps we've taken since 2007 until now, and what are some current growth areas that we want to work on moving forward. So I'm going to start with Tamascal. So first off, since 2007, independent study and teaching, the 2 parts of our school, have become full. There's been a wait list for both programs, so those programs are in strong demand. More Tamascal graduates have become college eligible since 2007. A significant increase in CSU eligibility, and significant increase in the SAT score since then. We have started sharing resources significantly this year with San Andreas and in the past, but this year in particular, we've been concurrent with enrolling a lot more seniors at both schools. There's a benefit for a lot of kids who come to Tamascal who got behind, had to miss a semester or a full year because of medical or emotional reasons, and just got behind. It's been a great advantage to have both Tamascal and San Andreas for kids. And we were sharing electives across both sites. So kids have access to more options than they had previously. The team program is serving all demographics of our community. And our AP class at Tamascal has increased from 4 to 12. While still quite small, we consider that some significant growth. And in general, when I speak with the parents, we get positive results and positive feedback for both sides of the school. 2007 recommendations, we had 2. One was to ensure student success in meeting their goals in their individual learning plan. We don't have a formal individual learning plan, but we basically customize to each kid what they need. And second, improve performance in proficiency in math and social studies. So looking at the first one, steps we've taken, similar to what Julie mentioned, every teacher's been involved in the development of our curriculum and have developed site interventions to try to support that in reaching CSU eligibility. When we take a student into Tamascal, we start with the default that we get them on the UC track, and we start there. And I can't say we're 100% successful, but we get every kid started there, and we try to support them as far as we can. All teachers at Tamascal participate in 2 or 3 PLC cycles to identify gaps in student achievement and to work with one another. In terms of access, we've had increased participation not only in the AP class we have at Tamalais, but kids being currently enrolled at Redwood, Drake, and Tam, accessing those courses there. SIS, supervised independent study. We have a superstar tutor by the name of Raymond Howard. If you haven't met him, I strongly encourage you to come out to the Tamalais Library. He is a major part of our intervention program, and because of the support of the board, we've increased his hours from 8 to 16 hours. He is a magician working with kids. In addition, we're seeing similar increase in substance use and struggles at our schools. So we've increased our support with BACR and sharing that across San Andreas when appropriate. The second goal, in terms of increasing proficiency in math and social studies, again, those teachers have participated in our GVC to get clear course alignment across the district. Those same teachers have participated in 3 PLC cycles. Our CASI scores are still very high. ELA at 96% and math at 100%. Social studies have maintained or stayed high in those 2 world history and US history levels. And math scores have remained low, with the exception of Southern math has increased significantly from 58% to 89%. Again, but I do want to highlight both at Tamalais and San Andreas, our sample sizes are very small. Our student body turns over if not half or more each year. So it's hard to get a strong read based on those scores. Moving forward to San Andreas, summary of strengths. We are having more and more students who want to come to San Andreas, and that's excellent. Because of the culture, the personalization, the relationships they form with staff. That's something we want to continue to encourage. I want to highlight less homework. Corey hears a lot, and we hear a lot, that students feel overwhelmed by homework at the big schools, and that they're pulling back from being engaged. Right or wrong, we're providing less homework, but kids are feeling more successful getting work done during the school day. The comprehensive high schools are referring less students. They're doing a better job system-wide of supporting the students at the big school. And the creation of the Pathways program. Candace Curtis had developed that, I believe, 5 years ago with the support of this board with 8 students, which has grown to 22 students this year. And we've successfully, thanks to the support of the principals in the room, gaining financial support from the foundations across the district. They are seeing these students as part of their community, not somewhere over behind the Redwood gym. Creation of the ACE RTI period is significant. That was created a couple of years ago, so kids 4 days a week have access to seeing teachers of flexible intervention similar to tutorial. ACE stands for Academic and Community Enrichment. We're trying to find a way to develop a sense of community give back, and RJ, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Spanish is something that's been developed or made accessible to students this year at San Andreas for the first time. Prior to that, kids didn't have access to that course, which is 2 years of a world language. It's a UC requirement. They would have to go elsewhere. Now they have it on their campus. We do not have a ton of students accessing that yet, but I hope to continue to grow that. So there are 4 goals that came from the 2007 committee. 1, to develop a PGP, a personal growth plan. 2, to improve performance in all state assessments. And then 3 and 4, to provide a variety of vehicles for effective citizenship, self-directiveness, collaborative working, and also self-discipline, accepting individual responsibility towards making healthy life choices. So the first goal, the PGP, a personal growth plan. Those were developed for all students from 2008 to 2012, but were discontinued in 2012 for a variety of reasons. That's something as a staff that we're likely going to bring back and tweak and customize to meet our needs a little bit better moving forward. The second goal, improving state performance on state assessments. Again, all teachers have been participating in common outcomes across the district. So whatever the outcomes are for U.S. history, we have the same expectation as San Andreas, that those kids need to meet those goals. CASI results cannot be compared because we have minimal 10th graders attending San Andreas now compared to 2007 because of the age restriction being 16 to enter San Andreas. CSC results have not improved. It's a little bit all over the place, but again, the sample sizes are very small and hard to compare, especially when you're only testing juniors with the CSTs, and our student body is primarily juniors and seniors. It turns over every single year. Goal 3, self-direction self-directed adults, citizens, and collaborative workers. Again, the development of that ACE period with advisory, sense of relationships, places to have conversations, and with an adult that cares about you, that knows about you. We've had emphasis this fall with Julie Ganner, college and career counselor, to bring in, talk about what's next for them. Greg Davison, school and career, so they can have an idea of what could be next for them once they cross the graduation line. Fourth goal, I'm sorry, I apologize, going back, and of course, the creation of the Pathways program. That's exactly what the Pathways program was created for. All staff last year was significantly trained in restorative justice. I know this board had heard of that in the training that went on last year. Corey's teaching a peer resource class, so students can go through a values clarification process to identify what's important to them, what's important to their community. And BACR is a very important part of our community. Despite a lot of our efforts in the past few years, Sanders still does have disproportionality issues in terms of student discipline and substance issues compared to the overall district. That's a significant concern, particularly the substance issues that we're wrestling with as a staff to address. So identifying the critical learning needs, very similar to what Julie mentioned, we did a data dive. We looked at all our WASP data at both sites in the month of November. We looked at all the data that was provided that was possible and kind of identified those same three critical learning needs. Access, closing the achievement gap or equity, and increasing mathematics performance. So very similar to what you guys have heard across the district. How do we engage the various stakeholders? Teachers and counselors. In the opening staff meeting, we had an overview of what was to come this year with WASP. All teachers participated in a PLC process where they not only gathered student data, but also had some feedback to hear from the student on what their perspective was in that experience. We did the data dive I talked about in November, and then since January, all staff members have been, all teachers and counselors have been a part of a focus group to look at these various areas of where we need to improve and where we're doing well. Parents, we've had lots of parent meetings at both sites. Monday nights have been a popular event at San Andreas, those events, and also with Tamalais. Students, the surveys that were done in the fall, and also at both campuses, meeting with them, and classified staff. I've met with both site staff to hear their input on what's going well and what we could be doing better to serve students. Reflections on the process so far. The line of the work to what we're trying to do. We're documenting what we're doing. We're not just WASPing this year. So that's something that has been much more beneficial to 7 years ago when I went through this at Drake. It does save a tremendous amount of time centralizing commonalities across the site reports, with having a common thread with what we're doing as a district, with differentiating what we're doing at the sites. We're spending more time doing the work as opposed to talking about it, and we're leveraging our teacher leaders as leaders. They're able to have conversations, solicit feedback, bring that back to the management team and say, hey, this isn't working. What do we need to do better? How do we need to tweak our PLC process and protocol next time around to make it more effective? And some teachers veteran teachers at Tamalais have been at various sites, report that feel there's more participation involved in this model than previously. And again, it's an ongoing cycle. As Julie mentioned, this is not just a documentation that we want to put on a shelf that we can come back in 7 years and revisit. This is an action plan that we want to use and begin planning this spring for what we're going to do in that opening staff development day in August. So again, next steps, we're going to finalize self-study, create the action plan, get feedback. We've got our visiting committee coming out in April. We're probably going to be at both sites, so might be a 4-day affair. Looking forward to having you guys come out. And we'll celebrate what we do well and keep getting better. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So are there any questions?
A couple of questions. Can you describe the ACE program a little more?
Sure. In ACE, Academic and Community Enrichment. So from my understanding, Corey, was that developed how many years ago? 2 years ago. The schedule at San Andreas used to be a much shorter day with the same period every day. From my understanding, the staff got together and said, we need to change that model. And the idea being that ACE be an opportunity where the students would be with an advisor, similar to a tutorial advisor model at TAM or Drake. and have a person they have constant contact with, someone that they can have a conversation around, where we're having restorative justice conversations, have an advisory model about looking at their credits, what they made progress with, what they need to work on, and also using that for flexible intervention time, where 2 to 3 times a week, if I'm Alyssa Callahan and I need to work with you, Chuck, in social studies, I can pull you 2 or 3 times a week and sit down and make sure you have more time with me, in addition to the regular class.
Okay, and then the second question has to do with the, what do you think is the validity of the CST scores? Considering that you're taking those, the kids are taking those tests in March, you've had them, juniors, since August at the most, and a lot of them coming in later. Do you think they really have any bearing, or considerable bearing, on the quality of the teaching at San Andreas?
That's difficult to say. I don't put a ton of stake in it, to be honest, but I'd like it to be better. So like all things. When we get the results back, I haven't been at San Andreas to have a cycle to look at STAR results, nor will we in the future moving forward. That being said, this is a model, this is actually a recommendation from 7 years ago from the previous committee. Hopefully from the new SBAC assessments, we'll get more timely data, that we can use and actually look at the end of the school year and how students perform, as opposed to the following August when kids moved on, or at San Andreas and Temsel. Many of them have actually left the school. So at both schools, it is not, I'll speak for Temsel, it's not been helpful to have STAR testing feedback in the fall.
Are there any other questions? Or I open up to public comment? Is there any public comment? No. Seeing none, thank you very, very much, both of you. And I'm looking forward to getting deeper into those reports once they come out. I really am. I love those reports. I know, I'm geeky. Okay, thank you. And then approval of the MOU on participation in the Northern California Career Pathways Alliance. Now, Pathways throws me because I think Pathways at yours, but this is a different Pathways.
Yes, hi, good evening. This is a different Pathways. This is the California Career Pathways Trust. This is an initiative developed at the state level to increase and improve career technical education across the state. So the way we are participating is with several counties. So really this is a county initiative, and they have collaborated with 5 other counties. And this is just some background on the bill. So as it says there, it provides $250 million in a one-time grant that was created last year to develop and improve the pathway, CTE pathways, not the corporate pathways. And locally what that means for us is the county has allocated about $75,000 a year per district in order to help develop CTE pathways that are specific to our region. The idea behind these pathways is that they would focus on a high need, high wage industry within our area. This is just more information on the Northern California Career Pathway Alliance. This is the alliance that was created among the 6 counties that are listed there. And as you can see, the goal is to create, this is directly from their website, to create a regional approach to career pathways that allows students from throughout the region to successfully transition from high school to post-secondary education to employment. The idea is that each region would look at their own resources, and particularly what are the needs of the community, what are the high wage, high demand jobs, and what are your community colleges offering in the way of being able to continue with your studies. And so given that, even though we are in this alliance, each region is doing something a little bit different. So Tamalais is focusing on agriculture. We are not. Our focus is actually in engineering and computer programming or computer science pathways. So to that end, what is a pathway? The idea is that they are looking for a pathway to be 2 or more articulated courses in a specific area, so that they have to be courses that build on content from one to the other. They typically like them to be 2 or 3 courses. The other aspect that they would really like to see is that they collaborate with core content. So the idea of what they're really looking for is for people to create things like an engineering and physics pathway, so that you would take 2 years of engineering and 2 years of physics along with that, so that you're really learning how to apply within a context what you're learning. They also strongly encourage that these courses be UC A&G requirement eligible, and that they provide students with connections and opportunities to work with industry advisors via mentorships and internships. So it's really sort of this all-encompassing thing that they would learn in context. Oops, sorry, back up a minute. So what the fund would be used for us would actually be right the first year. So kind of the funding came in a little late. So with the MOU came out, but they weren't really clearing all the funding just yet. That's why it's been a little bit delayed. But this is a building year. There's been a couple of meetings of the regional leadership, and different places are doing things a little differently, but some places have hired coaches, or they've designated a certain teacher to be a coach, which might be something we do in the future. We met with the principals very late last year, probably May, almost early June, and with the MCOE gentleman, and agreed that we thought the best use of the money for this year would be to give some release time to our teachers who are already working in some of these areas to develop our courses, to clearly identify outcomes, develop courses, think about pathways, and then next year work on building some of those pathways.
Okay, that was my question. So this is really for classes that'll be starting in the fall.
Yeah, so we already have classes in engineering and in computer science, particularly at both Redwood and Drake. We don't have computer science at TAM we don't have upper level computer science at TAM at this point, but that is something that Julie is working on actively, and they are hoping to implement in the fall. So all of that would be bringing these teachers together, looking at these courses that we already have, how can we align them, how can we make sure that they articulate, and then what are some natural ways that we can pair them with some core content? And could we get some teachers to collaborate and create these sort of, I don't know if they call them pathways, academies, whatever, but this idea that it would be a really rich experience where a student would come out with some industry experience, with really having a deep understanding of the content of their area and the context in which they would do that work.
Great. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. Sure, thank you. When I've gone into some of these courses, when I'm visiting these campuses, one thing that I see is lots of boys and not very many girls. So now we're talking about putting more money into these courses. So I just want to know if there's a plan, if there's a plan for, for a greater diversity of participation among our students.
That part of the development would be, I think, a plan, and I've actually been doing some research recently. There's an article just recently on girls and STEM careers and what we can do in the field of education to encourage that more, and some research around that. And some of the research said we should discourage it less. I thought that it's more discouraged than encouraged. But yes, that would be part of the plan of the development, was how are we going to sort of shop these courses out to kids? How are we going to build a pipeline so that kids are engaged and interested in it? And how do we make them exciting? I do know that Susan Kroch at TAM did an hour of code night in December, which I think was great. It's a good way of getting kids engaged in some computer programming and getting them exposed to something that maybe they didn't know. And so sort of planning some more of those sort of seed type events where students can get a taste of what it is and learn, and maybe dispel some myths they might have about who does engineering or who does computers.
That's great. I would love to be able to see some data as the program goes forward, sort of enrollment now in these kinds of courses and enrollment as we go forward, and whatever other ways that you as a professional educator would sort of, analyze and be able to report back on that.
have a question. Actually, I asked this in advance, but I thought it would be good for all of us to hear. I wanted to know how many students at each site were already involved in the pathways, the non-covered pathways, but the other pathways. And it was, the numbers you gave me, 56 in engineering, and I have so much paperwork up here. 56 in computer science at Drake and Redwood. And then engineering was 68 at Drake, 19 at TAM, and 48 at Redwood. So that TAM 0 in computer science struck me, and I'm wondering if we have a plan for that. Also, as you're thinking about that answer, in the first supporting document, I think it showed that we're getting money. First of all, that's great that we're getting money. Thank you. It's so nice that someone's giving us money. But I think if I read it right, we get $75,000 this fiscal year, and then 15-16 is $120,000 as it is in 16-17. So we have 2.5 years of funding to identify our outcomes and possibly hire a coach, or?
And yeah, so the idea is that we would hope to be, to get these classes up and running and to use some of that funding to put some of our teachers through some professional development that's offered through the Alliance, specific to career technical education. So all of that would be spent on if we wanted to make one of our teachers a coach and put that person through the training, put all the teachers engaged in the process through some professional development, give them release time to meet to develop courses, give them release time to meet with other pathway members from the county and from surrounding counties to talk about what's working in their classroom. They also organize trips to see successful pathways programs. So all of that the funding is for all of those purposes, but it is outlined by, the Alliance, the parameters of the funding.
Okay, and the first document that we got at the MOU stipulates, or it looks like there's language in there about a coach, and I wonder if that, we have to change that, or if we could just sign off on it and it's okay.
We asked specifically, and they said that is flexible. The coach is a recommendation, it's not a requirement. So we don't have to hire a coach. Because we said we don't necessarily want to do that. We met with the principals felt it was more important to provide multiple teachers opportunities to have release time to work together and collaborate this year. And so they said that would be acceptable.
So if we vote on this, to approve this, we don't have to amend the MOU as it's written right now?
No, and I actually have an email directly from Ken Lippy and Mike Grant up at MCOE that said we don't need a new MOU.
I believe you, but that's good that we have that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
A little bit of a rephrasing of Michael's question. So I'm a 10th grade boy, a constant habitué of the DF&I list, and I look at this and I see engineering and computer programming and think that's not for me. How are you going to get me into this?
Well, again, I think that's something that we would work with the teachers who are in these programs. I think they do some, I've been over to Drake where Ben Marble has done some really fun projects, and I think having some of the engineering kids do demonstrations. The boat last year where they actually had to build a boat out of, all these materials and get in the pool in it and actually float it. I think doing some demonstrations, really students are the best promoters of the program. So really getting some of the students out there to do outreach, to talk to their friends, to have hours of code where they can come in and meet other kids that are doing it. Again, I think a lot of it is exposure. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it is and what it isn't, and sort of really just creating these opportunities for kids to see it in action. So I think that's also the key, that it's doing. I think some people think engineering, that I'm going to be sitting and drawing or doing something, but I think there's a lot of doing, there's a lot of building, and a lot of creating. And there's a lot of energy around that now, around the maker sort of culture.
But none of my friends do that. you know.
You're gonna meet some new friends, Chuck.
How do you,
Hey, Chuck,
you're gonna really have to go out and find me.
Chuck, if you haven't seen it, there's a movie called Spare Parts, which is about a group of inner city kids who they wanted to engage them, and so they decided they were in Arizona, and so they decided that, well, actually they thought they'd get white kids to come into this predominantly minority school if they gave them some kind of real career tech thing that excited them. So they developed a program in underwater engineering. Now, why in the desert? Who knows? But they didn't even have a swimming pool. And so the teachers solicited a couple of kids, and then these kids started on this project scrounging spare parts. And they built this submersible, and there was a Department of Defense contest for colleges and for high schools to build this device. And they decided that they were so, you know, they had no chance of succeeding in any way whatsoever, so they entered in the college division, and they won. And they beat MIT, and they beat Harvard, and they beat all these other schools building this underwater robot that had to perform all these tasks out of spare parts. And I just cite that because when you're talking about how do you get the kids engaged, that's part of it. You give them something like that that's a challenge, and to hear the kids themselves talk about how they didn't have any interest in this and they thought this was really dweeby and why would they want to do it, and then to see what happened. And so I think, and again, I think we see the similar thing happening with some of the programs on some of the campuses, but this is a classic example of defying all odds and environment and socioeconomic background to soar. And by the way, most of those kids have now gone on way beyond their own expectation into graduate school and engineering and programming and whatnot.
So do we have any other questions, Tara? Okay, how about into public comment on the MOU for the career pathways? Any public comment? Okay, then I would be looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the MOU on participation in the Northern California Pathways Alliance.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Very good. Thank you very much, Tara, for all the work. My only comment is I think of marine biology when April Tucker, that little boy, got up and he said, I went to April Tucker and I said, I'm not even going to ever be in this class, so don't even think you're going to see me because it's 8 o'clock and I don't come to school at 8 o'clock. And then here he was. He said he comes every single day. He couldn't believe he had built this robot-y thing that went under the thing. And I just sat there looking at this kid and just blew me away. That's the kid I see doing this. So anyway, Michael, calendar.
Yes, I just wanted to see if you have any questions for the 2016-2017 calendar.
Yeah, we've got.
I don't have a question, I have a comment though. I know that, I asked this of Lori Kimbrough. I wanted everybody to know that we have 5 professional development days and 3 teacher workshop days, which I think is unusual. Chuck and I were just at a Masters in Governance training in Burlingame, and it's unusual to have 188 days for teachers get paid for 188 days, 8 more than students are required to be here, and those 8 days are devoted to professional development, which is a very high priority for the sport. So I just wanted to give some kudos to the fact that we pay those teachers an extra 8 days to get professional development, and that's unusual in the state of California.
Any other comments?
I would like to thank TFT. This is a negotiated item. And one of the things that we asked TFT, and Corey was very helpful in this, is that we asked to actually have a broader based representation for the committee. And so Corey went out to all of the sites, and we worked together from October till January to create this calendar. And as we look into for the 2017-2018 calendar, we have a lot of discussion items around professional development days and what those look like and where those are oriented. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'd like to thank Corey. Thank you.
I would just like to thank all of you because I know families, this makes a big difference to them to be able to have a 16, 17 calendar, to be able to start planning. And I know our feeder schools also are very appreciative that if the family, if our feeders can get coordinated with us, it's all better for families trying to keep those kids going on the same schedule, which is a very big challenge. And thank you, because I know it's been this was a lot of work. So we need to vote on this, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I need a motion to approve the calendar for 2016 and 17. Chuck. Chuck moves it. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then now I'm going to pull up the item out of consent that was approved employee reclassification. And do you want to just give a little summary as to what this is about?
Absolutely. We have some CSEA representatives here that have been here all night, so I thank you for being here to the College and Career Specialists. A little bit about the process. In the CSEA contract, Article 10, Section F, one of the things that it states is that reclassification requests from the CSEA come up every November. They can choose to submit a reclassification or they can decide not to submit a reclassification. And if a reclassification is submitted, and so we received one in November for the College and Career Specialists, we form a committee. And the committee is composed of district administration and CSEA representation. So we have the union president, Laura Ibanez, who is here. We have the union steward, Chris Knudsen, myself, and we have the director of student service, senior director of student services, Wes Cedros. And what we did is we looked through all of the materials. We looked at there are specific criteria that we need to look at, and I'll actually go through some of those with you. Knowledge and skills, scope and complexity, responsibility, working conditions, physical effort, recruitment are just a few of those. And what we do is we actually look at those criteria and see if the position has actually been changed over time. One of the things so we received this from the College and Career Specialists. We reviewed this, and then one of the things we have to do in our process is actually go through a hearing. So the College and Career Specialists, they all came, they provided a proposal, about a half-hour proposal, and they presented their specific case on how their job has changed or how their job has become much more complex than it had previously. So the College and Career Specialists submitted that reclassification request. We reviewed it, we reviewed the hearing, and we do believe that the position does need to be reclassed. There are a couple reasons for that. I think one, the knowledge and skill set has specifically changed. It is truly a specialized position that requires a specific set of knowledge in terms of understanding financial aid, understanding college policy, understanding admissions requirements, understanding matriculation rates, understanding our Naviance program, which is a very sophisticated program for college and career specialists to be able to look at that particular data, analyze that, synthesize it, and then be able to convey that information to students and parents. It's a very sophisticated very sophisticated skill set that they've actually developed over time. And one of the things that we found over the last 9 to 12 months is that it's very difficult to recruit for. It's very difficult to move in terms of, from a transfer standpoint, it's very difficult to bring someone in because of that level of knowledge and skill that's required. The other part about this job, that when you look at the original job description, a specific part of the job description is really about going out and presenting materials. But a lot of this job is really about coaching, it's about advocating, it's about going out and talking with parents and communicating and really being on the front line of this college and career specialist work and working in tandem with the school counseling services and working with the administrative team. So they have to have very strong oral and written communication skills. And what we found in terms of what the job description was stating and where it fell on the classified step and column is we found that it really doesn't represent where that position needs to be. And so one of the things that we did in that committee is we really did decide, we made the decision that this does need to be reclassified. That was our opinion to bring to the Board of Trustees to you and to move to the rate. The total cost of the district would be $11,976. And we provided a revised job description that we had posted. And so this position, as we are recommending here, would move from a 20.5 to a 22.5 on the schedule. So I don't know if you have some questions. I don't know if some people want to speak because they've been here for a few hours.
I know. I was going to say, let's do our public comment now.
Yes. Do I need to step up to the mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being so
Okay, again, I'm Terry Crotty, former employee of the Tamalais Union High School District, loyal classified employee, still a member of CSEA, I pay my dues, and a member of the CSEA retiree unit. So I'm still part of the fold. You know, I'm still involved, but I'm speaking to you tonight as a member of the community, which I've been a part of for 39 years now. I've lived in San Anselmo. I've got two boys that graduated from Drake High School in the 90s, the good old days, and they and I had the pleasure and privilege of working with Barbara McCune. A great lady that helped my sons in ways that I cannot even say. They are both very successful today, productive members of the community, have their college education, and now I have two granddaughters and a grandson on the way who will probably be going to Drake in about 10 years. So I have a real vested interest in this. The college and career specialists have direct contact with students and have a real influence in their futures. You've got kids coming in that say, I like chemistry. What can I do? Well, you know, they give them advice on where's the best place to go for chemistry. These are the careers that you can have. As it turns out, one of my sons, inspired by Nina Taichinen, loved chemistry. He is now a senior criminalist for the Department of Justice. He's the DNA lab guy, you know, and he still thinks of Barbara McCune. And if, you know, he didn't know where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do, what we could afford, but she helped us through all that. And, you know, this is a very demanding community, as we know, becoming more and more so all the time. And I think having on-site college and career specialists is expected. It's, you know, they don't want to have to go out and pay consultants. They want it in-house. And I'd also like to say, Michael, that was a great presentation. Everything you said. I agree with everything you said. Don't you like to hear that? That's it. I really appreciate your consideration of this. It's a long time coming. It's long overdue. So please set things right and reclassify these people.
Great, thank you very much. Barbara was a special person. So is there any other public comment? Oh, Cory, yes, absolutely.
I'm Cory DeMars, and I'm a former counselor at San Andreas High School. I mean, a current counselor at San Andreas High School. Former counselor, don't get any ideas. I'm a former counselor at TM High School. And I'll make this brief, I tripped all over it. As a counselor at TM High School and at San Andreas, the college and career specialists and my relationship with them made my job a whole lot easier. I relied on them tremendously. They enhanced the quality and comprehensiveness of the counseling and support services program, and I couldn't imagine doing the job without them. And they certainly made the experience of our students a whole lot better, and I could not support this one. Thank you.
Right. Those are two resounding oratories. Are there any questions or comments?
I just want to echo what Terry said. This is, you know, I tried to make this happen 4 years ago, and it didn't. And so this is long overdue, and these are critical people in the lives of our kids, and it's a tremendous job that they've got, and where they were classified before just didn't make any sense.
Well, I also look at the fact that if we're going to get high quality people, we need to pay high. We need to be able to pay them in a way that's commensurate.
I'm a parent of two students who've all used Paula Ventries. I see you way back there. Thank you for sitting here all night. And I hope my third one will come see you too when she's ready. And I think that it is about time. I actually did not know that you were at a 20.5 instead of 22.5. I think it's well deserved. We use you, Paula, instead of going out and paying a lot of money out of our own pockets for a private consultant. And so I think, you know, we get a lot of bang for our buck already, and we need to show our appreciation for all that you and your peers and the other sites do. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I've got, you know, I think, you know, from a student or parent perspective, the college and career counselor is one of the most important people in the school system, without question. You know, you can have a bad 9th grade English teacher or a bad 11th grade science teacher. You shouldn't have that, but you can't have a bad college and career counselor. That's really devastating. The second thing I want to say is, you know, I can't speak to Drake or Tam because, you know, I haven't worked with the counselors there, but for Redwood and for the alternative schools, the level of expertise, the level of knowledge, the patience that the counselors have, the ability to talk parents into reasonable expectations is astounding. And we don't, you know, it's just foolish beyond belief to have these positions in a place on the pay schedule that when we have turnover, we can't attract the absolute best. This is a crucial, crucial position.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve employee reclassification.
I move that we reclassify the college and career counselors.
Thank you, Chuck.
25 or
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Thank you very, very much for staying with us. It really, and I appreciate the comments, so I appreciate you staying even more. Then we need one more consent item, W, which was for purchase orders over 7,500. And I believe it's, Chuck pulled it off. So could I have a motion to approve the purchase orders over 7,500?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? And Chuck has one abstain. Thank you. Okay, updates, finance and facilities. No. Curriculum. Michael?
I'll be very brief. CSEA had a retirement planning seminar last week. We had CalPERS come in and work with about 50 staff members, and I think that they really enjoyed it. At least that's what we received in terms of feedback. And then we are running a CalSTRS portfolio workshop in April for our certificated members, and we'll be sending out an email on that very soon.
Oh, that's a good turnout. Great. Trustee reports. Is it anything from JLAC?
I'll have something tomorrow.
Oh, you have a meeting tomorrow?
But I can probably tell you it's reserve cap.
Yeah, reserve cap's going to be the focus for sure. So we'll be looking forward to hearing what you have when you come back. Athletic council, we don't have anybody on that anymore.
Take that off.
Yeah, we need to take athletic council off because we don't have anyone. NCSBA.
You should have gotten a flyer, or will get a flyer for an event on the 26th of February. We're bringing in an expert in the Brown Act to do a professional development. Dinner will be served. MCSBA is picking up the cost. It's open to the public, and there'll be people from other districts, other areas coming. You can drive down to Burlingame and get the same training for $175, and you won't get any food. Or you can
come to this on the 26th. I
So
think,
what, do you know what time it is at?
I believe it's 5 to 7:30.
Okay.
The flight,
On the
26th of
26th.
February.
Okay.
Cindy, I'll send you the.
Yeah, I
flyer.
haven't seen anything.
And maybe it just came out to the executive committee. I'll send it to you.
Okay, great.
And you can circulate it to the others?
Yes.
Thank you.
A Golden Bell?
Quickly, at our next board meeting, well, it sounds like we might have one between now and March 10th. But we, as a board, need to approve the student programs that we are putting forward for Golden Bell honoring.
Oh.
So I just want to make sure that's on our radar. I think it'll probably be a consent agenda item, but it's exciting this year. We're honoring student programs across Marin County, and this is the only category where the board needs
To approve?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure that happens before, no one makes that due date. Other than that, we're adjourned.